Gopijan Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijan Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
ISKCON BBT फाउंडर आचार्य शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्यकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सत श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस शिला भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोसाई महाराज शिला प्रभुपाद की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की, प्रेम से बोलो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंद की। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की। श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय। वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की। गंगा मैया की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की, तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Namo Pankajnabhaya Namo Pankajmaline Namo Pankajnetraya Namaste Pankajangrahe. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 13, Text 11. Just pull it on my laptop. 6:13. Six 13. 6. 6:30. Yeah. Tayendra Samashahat Tapam Nirvritir Namum Avishat Hrimantam Vachyatam Praptam Sukhayanti Api No Guna. Tayendra samashahatapam nirvrittir namam avishat rimantam vachyatam praptam sukhayanti api no gunaha. Can continue. Tayendra samashahatapam Nirvritir namam avishat Rimantam vachyatam praptam Sukhayanti api no gunaha. Tayendra samashattapam Nirvritir namam avishat Rimantam vachyatam praptam Sukhayanti api no gunaha. Taya, by that action, Indra, King Indra, Sma, indeed, Asahat, suffered, Tapam, misery, Nirvritti, happiness, Na, not, Amum, him, Avishat, entered, Rimantam, one who is shameful, Vachyatam, ill fame, Praptam, obtaining, Sukhayanti, give pleasure, Api, although, no, not, Gunaha, good qualifications like possessing opulence. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Following the advice of the demigods, Indra killed Vritrasura, and he suffered because of this sinful killing. Although the other demigods were happy, he could not derive happiness from the killing of Vritrasura. Indra's other good qualities, such as tolerance and opulence, could not help him in his grief. Purport: one cannot be happy by committing sinful acts, even if one is endowed with material opulence. Indra found this to be true. People began to blaspheme him, saying, "This person has killed a brāhmaṇa for the sake of enjoying heavenly material happiness." Therefore, in spite of being king of heaven and enjoying material opulence, Indra was always unhappy because of the accusations of the populace. You want me to continue reading or? What is it? Huh? No, I prepared for this only. Others don't have any purports. Okay. Indra saw personified sinful reactions chasing him, appearing like a Chandala woman, a woman of the lowest class. She seemed very old, and all the limbs of her body trembled. Because she was afflicted with tuberculosis, her body and garments were covered with blood. Breathing an unbearable fishy odor that polluted the entire street, she called to Indra, "Wait, wait!" Purport: when a person is afflicted with tuberculosis, he often vomits blood, which makes his garments bloody. Text 14, translation. O king, Indra first fled to the sky, but there also he saw the woman of personified sin chasing him. This witch followed him wherever he went. At last, he very quickly went to the northeast and entered the Mans Sarovar lake. 15. Always thinking of how he could be relieved from the sinful reaction for killing a Brahmana, King Indra, invisible to everyone, lived in the lake for 1,000 years in the subtle fibers of the stem of a lotus. The fire god used to bring him his share of all yagyas, but because the fire god was afraid to enter the water, Indra was practically starving. Text 16. Translation. As long as King Indra lived in the water, wrapped in the stem of the lotus, Nahusa was equipped with the ability to rule the heavenly kingdom due to his knowledge, austerity and mystic power. Nahusa, however, blinded and maddened by power and opulence, made undesirable proposals to Indra's wife with a desire to enjoy her. Thus, Nahusa was cursed by a Brahmin and later became a snake. Text 17. Indra's sins were diminished by the influence of Rudra, the demigod of all directions. Because Indra was protected by the goddess of fortune, Lord Viṣṇu's wife, who resides in the lotus clusters of a Manasa Sarovara lake, Indra's sins could not affect him. Indra was ultimately relieved of all the reactions of his sinful deeds by strictly worshipping Lord Viṣṇu. Then he was called back to the heavenly planets by the brāhmaṇas and reinstated in his position. Text 18. O king, when Lord Indra reached the heavenly planets, the saintly brāhmaṇas approached him and properly initiated him into the horse sacrifice, Ashwamedha Yagya, meant to please the Lord, Supreme Lord. Text 19 and 20. Translation. The horse sacrifice performed by the saintly brāhmaṇas relieved Indra of the reactions to all his sins because he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that sacrifice. O king, although he had committed a gravely sinful act, it was nullified at once by that sacrifice, just as fog is vanquished by the brilliant sunrise. Text 21. King Indra was favored by Marichi and other great sages. They performed the sacrifice just according to the rules and regulations, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul, the original person. Thus, Indra regained his exalted position and was again honored by everyone. Text 22 and 23. In this very great narrative, there is glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan. There are statements about the exaltedness of devotional service. There are descriptions of devotees like Indra and Vritrasura. And there are statements about King Indra's release from sinful life and about his victory in fighting the demons. By understanding this incident, one is relieved of all sinful reactions. Therefore, the learned are always advised to read this narration. If one does so, one will become expert in the activities of the senses, his opulence will increase, his reputation will become widespread. One will also be relieved of all sinful reactions, he will conquer all his enemies, and the duration of his life will increase. Because this narration is auspicious in all respects, learned scholars regularly hear and repeat it on every festival day. So, the duration of our lives have increased now. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhayevcha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. So we seek all your blessings so that we can speak on this wonderful subject matter. So I'll go back to this verse and read the purport again for text 11, because other verses didn't have a purport after this one, except the tuberculosis one. One cannot be happy by committing sinful acts, even if one is endowed with material opulence. Indra found this to be true. People began to blaspheme him, saying, "This person has killed a brāhmana for the sake of enjoying heavenly material happiness." Therefore, in spite of being king of heaven and enjoying material opulence, Indra was always unhappy because of accusations of the populace. So, this verse is very relevant to today's times and for all the times that are going to come in the future. Because there are so many sinful acts that are being committed, and even if one is endowed with material opulence, if one is committing sinful acts, one cannot be happy. And then Indra found this to be true. So this is very interesting line. Indra found this to be true. There are so many people who don't find it to be true, that by committing sinful acts, whether you will be happy or not. So this found word is very profound, because our founder Acharya is Srila Prabhupada, and he found all of us. So it's very interesting how in this verse that Vritrasur has been killed here, and Indra has accumulated that sin. So Indra has killed second time a brāhmana. Who was the first one he killed? Vishwarup, right? And we saw in that text also that Indra incurred sin. And although Indra was so powerful, he could have neutralized that sinful reaction of killing Vishwarup, the brāhmana, but he accepted this sin, and then he suffered for 1 year, and then to purify himself, he distributed the reaction to 4 things. What are those 4 things? Trees, women, water, and earth. Right? These are the 4 things he distributed the sin. And so that was the first time he killed a brāhmana, and the second time he is killing Vritrasur. He is also a brāhmana. In the previous life, he was King Chitraketu. He is a devotee of the Lord. So, and the demigods have been encouraging, they have been pushing Indra to kill Vritrasur by saying that you can atone it. Once you kill him, you can atone by performing a Ashwamedha sacrifice. There is no problem. Go ahead and kill him. And they said that one can be relieved even of the sinful reaction for killing the entire world. Forget about just, one Brahmin. Even if you kill the entire world, this Ashwamedh Yajna is so powerful that it pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead to such an extent that one can be relieved even of the sinful reactions for killing the entire world, not to speak of killing a demon like Vritrasura. So, but we see here that Vritrasura is being killed, and he's a devotee of the Lord, right? In the future chapters, so after this, we'll have the 14th chapter. We'll talk about the past life of Vritrasur, who's King Chitraketu, how he became Vritrasur, what offense he committed. So we see that whoever we may be, whether it is Indra or whether it is a wide range of devotee class, whoever we may be, whatever we may be, whether we know something or we don't know something, everything is going to be taken away from us materially, obviously. And we will inevitably be entangled in all the complexities. Our house, our loved ones, our own life for that matter, will be taken away, with the power of time. So that is the nature of this material world. Dukhalayam ashashvatam. So that is, we see in this verse for Vritrasura. Although he's a devotee of Krishna, but he's losing his life. And many times we read and hear, but we are not able to relate it to a life that why things happen, why they happen. It's sometimes very difficult. And we are seeing that there are difficulties that are coming in everybody's life. Even for Srila Prabhupada, as the pure devotee of the Lord, when he was on the Jaladuta, he had 2 heart attacks, he had the dizziness, and he was saying that in this stormy ocean, the boat was like a matchbox. It was floating like a matchbox. And he faced so many challenges. But was he disturbed? No, he was continuing. He was continuing even in those circumstances and pleasing Krishna and his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. We also see when Prabhupada was in New York, Dravida Prabhu is also from New York, when he was trying to acquire a building in Manhattan. So in New York, the buildings are connected, there is no alley, right? And there was a 2-story building in Manhattan, and Prabhupada would go and stand there and he would pray to Krishna, Krishna, I want this building so that we can build a nice temple, a Govinda's restaurant, a cultural center and bookstore, and it would be so nice. And he talked to the owner of the building. He said, let us partner. Prabhupada didn't have anything and he was saying, let us partner. And he tried to convince him, we'll make it a very nice place where there will be deities, there will be kirtan, Govindas, this, that. But that person said, no, I'm not interested in partnership with you. And he actually sold it to somebody else. And Srila Prabhupada was deeply mortified. It's very extreme. But was he disturbed? No. Somebody told him, this is a very costly area, why don't you go to the lower east side of the Bawari? So that's why Prabhupada went to the lower east side of the Bawari. And now we see, we are sitting in this beautiful temple. Probably it's much better than those 2-story building in Manhattan. And not to even speak about this temple, but there are hundreds and thousands of temples now. I can say 1,000 because approximately under construction or whatever. It will be approximately 1,000 of temples now. Krishna could have given that building to Prabhupada, but this is amazing now what we have right now. Srila Prabhupada had beautiful quarters in Los Angeles, right? New Dwarka, if you go upstairs, you have to take appointment and you can tour the entire... How many of you have seen that Prabhupada's quarter? Everybody, yeah. It's so beautiful that Prabhupada's trunk is kept there, and one interesting thing I noticed, Prabhupada used to bathe with a Mysore sandal soap. It's very nice soap. I also use it after looking at that. So it's beautiful. The trunk is there, the rocking chair is there, and Krishna deity is there, and his bed is there, and his place for massage. So amazing. It's such a luxurious quarter. But when Prabhupada was there in that quarter, he said to his disciples that my heart is in Vrindavan. I long to go to Vrindavan at the Radha Damodar temple, where the floor in 1970s was just a earthen floor. There were not even tiles or anything like that. And he said, I long to go there. So for Srila Prabhupada to leave the luxury of Los Angeles, California and go to so-called poverty in Vrindavan, rather Damodar temple, was sense gratification. He said, if I leave here and go there, it would be sense gratification for me. Right? Which is totally contrary to today's understanding of, leaving the material luxury and going to poverty is not sense gratification. The reverse is sense gratification. So yeah, there would be problems for everyone. There would be challenges. But what is important is how we deal in those difficult situations. One time a professor asked Srila Prabhupada, the professor of Sanskrit, that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Matra sparshas tu konteya, sitoshna sukha dukkhada, agam apaino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. So he said, but in the Mahabharata, Arjuna was crying when his son Abhimanyu was killed. Arjuna heard the entire Bhagavad Gita from Krishna. Then how come he didn't have the understanding that one should be sober in summer and winter and happiness and distress, honor and dishonor? Why didn't he understand the concept of Bhagavad Gita? So, Srila Prabhupada answered his question, and he said that it is natural to feel, grief if your loved one passes away. That is natural. And we see that Arjuna was disturbed, and also Subhadra, who is the spiritual energy of the Lord. Subhadra is the mother of Abhimanyu. She was also crying. So why were they disturbed? So it doesn't mean that you don't feel, because Narottam means the highest human quality. To feel for others is the highest human quality. And if you are feeling for somebody, it's not bad. But his will to please Krishna was not disturbed. That is the important thing. He carried on his service. He continued to fight whatever Krishna ordered Arjuna. He continued with that. And same thing we see that in Mahabharata, or let's say first take Ramayana also. Mother Sita, she was captivated by Ravan in the Sri Lanka garden of Ashok trees, Ashok Vatika. And she was sitting there. Ravan would come every day and try to propose her to marry him. But she always refused, and very beautiful analogy she will give. She will say, you are trying to lick honey from a razor's edge. Just imagine how that is. And you're trying to cross an ocean with a mountain tied around your neck, which is impossible. You cannot cross. So, and then in Mahabharata, so the point is that Mother Sita was so much dedicated to Lord Ram. Even amid so many difficulties, she continued to wait for Lord Ram. And in Mahabharata, you see Vidura. Very nice example of Vidura is there. We know Vidura is the brother of Dhritarashtra and Pandu. He was very qualified. After Pandu left, actually he could be the king. But due to some circumstances, he couldn't. And Duryodhan, who didn't even care about all the sins he was doing. So here it says, one cannot be happy by committing sinful acts, even if one is endowed with material opulence. Indra found this to be true, but Duryodhan did not found this to be true. He was going on committing sinful activities. He was continuing to blaspheme the Pandavas, trying to put them in so many trials and tribulations, trying to kill them with poisonous cake or putting the house on fire, and cheating them in the gambling match. So many different ways he tried to cheat them. He never thought that I'm doing anything sinful. He found it to be false. And to the extent that his uncle Vidura, he actually very harshly and rudely he behaved with him. And both Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra, they asked Vidura to leave the kingdom, and he couldn't take anything. He lost his job of advisory. He was laid off, basically, in today's terms. and he couldn't take anything. He just could take his life breath, that's all. But he said, okay, he wasn't disturbed in that situation also. He said, okay, I don't have anything to do. What should I do? Let's go to pilgrimage. And where should I go for pilgrimage? There's so many places. Let's go. So he was happy and grateful about that situation. He wasn't grateful that, oh, this happened to me, but he was grateful that I have this shelter. I have Krishna to take shelter. I have this pilgrimage. I have this opportunity to go around places. So he was grateful for that situation. So we learn this from Vidura also, that how to handle these difficult situations. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vidura is one of the Mahajan. Who is he? He is Yamaraj, yeah. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Mahajano yena gatasa pantha. So Vidura is the Mahajan and his whole life is a struggle. He is homeless. Right? And he also, in the Bhagavatam, in the previous canto, we see he's asking Maitreya Rishi, what is the goal of life? So we see that devotees are put into reversals, and it is not unique to Vidura, it is also with Parikshit Maharaj. We saw that, right? When he was in the womb of his mother, Ashwathama sent a nuclear weapon, Brahmastra, and he was Krishna conscious from the same time when he was in the womb, basically. So we see that if we please or displease the Lord materially, we are going to lose everything. It's the detail that matters. Even when we surrender to the Lord, things will go wrong. If we don't surrender, still we lose everything. But when we value that the only thing that really matters is Samsiddhi Hari Toshanam, then Krishna is pleased. So in the Bhagavatam, this beautiful verse is there. Atha Pumbir Dwaja Shrestha Varnashram Vibhagasha Swa-anutishtasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Hari Toshanam. So whatever our situation is in this world, whatever our job, our occupation is there, but the perfection of life is when we can do Samsiddhir Hari Toshanam, which is we can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Shri Shri Radha Giridhari. That is the highest perfection that we can achieve. And how we can achieve it? We learn from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying to distribute these fruits of love of Godhead. So until we eat the fruit, how will we get nourishment? Mahaprabhu is saying, okay, these are the fruits of love of Godhead, go and distribute. But in order to gain strength, we first need to eat the fruits. We need to read the books. One time I was asking His Holiness Badrinath Swami Maharaj, how can I progress in spiritual life? So he told me two things. One is read Srimad Bhagavatam. And also he told me about hearing. He said, as soon as you get up, you have some time, just put on some lecture. In the morning, you spend half an hour in the restroom or something, just one lecture is already gone. So I really liked that and I started applying that. It's really wonderful. So unless we eat the fruits and get strength, we won't be able to distribute the books. Or do any services also, because that gives us strength. So it is important because in this world, in this illusory world, we see that significant things are considered to be insignificant. Right? So there are so many distractions and so many things that we forget that how important it is to chant our rounds nicely with all the pressing needs around us. But if we want to please Krishna, then it is significant. And with all these distractions and illusion, we feel the insignificant things to be significant. Because we are distracted, we don't follow the significant and we start observing the insignificant thing. So in this verse, we see that one cannot be happy by committing sinful acts, even if one is endowed with material opulence. And by taking shelter of Krishna and following the dharma, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata. So to establish the principles of religion, so if we are following dharma, then definitely we will be happy in this life and next and forever. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
So I have a question. It says here in text 17.
17, okay.
That Indra's sins were diminished by the influence of Rudra, and also he was worshipping Lord Viṣṇu, and he was under protection of the goddess of fortune. And then in text number 19, when he went back to the heavenly planets, Lord Indra, it says that he performed the horse sacrifice, and although he had committed a gravely sinful act, he was nullified at once by that sacrifice, just as a fork is vanquished by the brilliant sunrise. So my question is, it says that when he was in the lake, all of his sins were vanquished because he worshipped Lord Viṣṇu, and by the demigod, by the influence of Rudra. Then why is that he had to perform another sacrifice when he went back to heavenly planets? And why does it say again that his sinful nullified again? Hope that makes sense.
Are you saying he performed the sacrifice again when he went to heavenly planets?
So he was.
I think he just did
was
it
free
once.
from all sins in the lake, and then he went back to the heavenly planets, and the brāhmaṇas.
No, his sins were not nullified in the lake. It was diminished. See, if you see the translation, Indra's sins were diminished by the influence of Rudra, because Indra was protected by the goddess of fortune, who resides in the lotus cluster of Manasa Sarovar lake, right?
And then you see Indra was ultimately relieved of all the reactions in the same text.
Indra was ultimately relieved of all the reactions by strictly. So it says strictly worshipping Viṣṇu, right? So that is when he did the Ashwamedh Yagya, because that Yagya is done for Lord Viṣṇu.
So this is referring to. So this is referring to the time when he went to the heavenly planets, worshipping Lord Viṣṇu, right?
No, he's called back to heavenly planets after his sins, his sinful deeds of worshiping Lord Viṣṇu. There's, I don't want to say redundancy in this, but we find that in the previous chapter there was some foreshadowing of this, and then it goes back. In other words, it's going back and describing things, just like the next chapter. You're going to go back and describe what happened with Chitraketu. How did Vitrasura become a? So it's not strictly chronological. You have to, yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, this verse here, 17. Indra's sins were diminished by the influence of Rudra, the demigod of all directions, because Indra was protected by the goddess of fortune, Lord Viṣṇu's wife, who resides in the clusters of Manasa Sarovar lake. Indra's sins could not affect him. Indra was ultimately relieved of all the reactions of his sinful deeds by strictly worshipping Lord Viṣṇu. I think that refers to the Ashwamedha sacrifice that was going to happen. Then he was called back to heavenly planets by the brāhmaṇas and reinstated in his position. So it's just like when we're chanting. Of course, we're not chanting every morning to get rid of the sins we performed in the previous day. I mean, that's understood that once chanting, that's the first benefit, is getting rid of the sins. But that's not our goal. Our goal isn't just, all right, now I can enjoy again, because Indra he doesn't go back to Godhead. Vitrasura really got the ultimate benediction, even though it was kind of ghastly the way he got it, but he got it, right? But Indra, his goal is to get free of sinful reactions, get back into good graces of everyone because he was being dishonored, and then resume his life in the heavenly planets, which Krishna says is foolish, because ultimately you lose that, you know. So Indra is not on the level of Vidrasra, or Chitraketu Vidrasra. Vidrasra was willing to lose every position in the material world just so he could go back to Godhead. Indra, his whole idea, okay, let me get sins, let me get back into good graces so everyone honors me again, and I can resume my life in the Indraloka. So he's a devotee, but he's a Sakama devotee. Vidrasra, Chitraketu was a Kama. He's more advanced. But there's not, there's some summarizing going on, and then it tells you the story. I don't think it's redundant. You know.
So what helped him to be nullified from sin is the sacrifice, the Ashwamedha sacrifice, or the austerity he performed in the lake and being under the protection of Goddess of Fortune.
Yes,
You were describing the sin personification as a lady. I mean,
yeah, lady, yeah.
But sometimes we hear about Papa Purus. So is it a male or female, the sin personification? And then normally that is, the Papa. Yeah, that's, yeah. Yeah. So.
The whole family.
Maybe that's how I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Haribo.
Haribol.
So you mentioned people see the insignificant as significant. On book distribution, you see that all the time, you know.
Oh,
They put so much importance on things that devotees don't really consider to be significant.
Correct.
And it was a nice reminder that, you know, we're given an opportunity to actually see how things as they are, instead of, you know, non-devotee seeing something important. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Just something kind of funny one time, just because it reminded me of something that happened to me on book distribution one time. One time I was distributing books in Balboa Park, and there was this family, and they were walking by I was walking around, they were walking by some booth or something like that. And I guess they had a daughter or something named Maya.
Maya.
You know, so she was walking by and she was looking at something. She goes, "That has Maya written all over it." And I was thinking, yeah, it does.
It's interesting. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.